Hola a todos. Gracias por venir. Espero que la comida está buena. I'm going to switch to English because I can do conversation in Spanish, but talk about AI in Spanish is a bit challenging. Hope it's okay. So in people's mind, AI is always a very complex topic. Actually, this is very simple and easy to understand. And actually, this is what Dataiku has been trying to do for 5 years now that the company exists, is to put AI in the hands of everybody. So not only data scientists, but also analysts, business users. Without further ado, what we're going to talk about today. So quickly present you the company I work for, Dataiku. I am, by the way, a solutions architect, previously data scientist, and previously a client of Dataiku. I basically loved the product so much when I started to use it that I decided to join the company. I invite you to give it a try afterwards. Come see me if you are interested. Then we'll talk about very quickly about what description of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, as an enterprise asset. So how we can put AI to the service of enterprise. And then I'll go through a use case of one of our clients, biggest clients actually, GE Aviation, and how we actually achieved something quite remarkable there. So Dataiku, in a nutshell, I joined the company a year ago. We were 100. We're now 300. Next year, we plan to double that size. So the company is doing pretty well. What we do is that we provide software, which is a data science platform that allows business analysts, analytics leaders, data scientists, data engineers, and to be honest, pretty much anyone to connect on the same platform, to work together, and to bring their expertise to the same data products and to collaborate. The output of the collaboration and I guess like the areas of applications of sort of like the projects that we can build on Dataiku covers any aspect of the enterprise. So that is analytics, that is predictive maintenance, marketing, risk analysis, fraud detection. So we're quite concerned about security over here. So we definitely have like a few use cases around security. And we have many, many more types of projects. And then the industries, also, they greatly vary. So our clients that we can talk about, Unilever, where we have, I think, more than 400 users, GE, where we have almost 2,000 users, Santander, I think you're pretty familiar with it, Capgemini, BCG, and so on and so on. We have right now over 200 clients worldwide. And so one of the two main characteristics of Dataiku is first collaboration, as I was saying, but then also to facilitate deployment of data products from development to production. And we'll see that right now a lot of companies and organizations who are supposedly, big shots, big guns in data science actually don't get anything done because all of their projects remain in development and they never actually have an impact on the business. So because we provide an environment for development and environment for production, it's very easy to pass on these projects from one environment to the other, or at least we facilitate that a lot compared to what's currently available. So artificial intelligence, in a nutshell, so we can always argue on what AI is, self-driving cars, killing robots, or simple regression. In a nutshell, what we can say is like data science, big data, deep learning, machine learning, advanced analytics, these 5 topics sort of like summarize, describe AI in general. So what is enterprise AI? So this is a term that we sort of like made our own. Enterprise AI is AI applied to enterprise questions and problems and find solutions to these enterprise situations with AI. So that's marketing, that's maintenance, that's finance. So that is the term enterprise AI that we made our own and that we try to fulfill the best. So one definition for it, augmentation of process, product, or decision based on the adequate processing of large amount of data. So I think that's quite fair definition here. So what's been changing and why we are getting so much traction right now doing enterprise AI? I think in general it's quite trendy and very hot topic. Obviously, First aspect is the progress of data processing. So now, not only we have huge amounts of data, we have the tools to process it with Spark, Hadoop, all of these like computing frameworks that came out in the past 15 years. So that's the first element. Second element is the availability of these computational resources. So it can be quite complex to set up a big data environment. At the same time, they're also easily accessible through a lot of cloud-based solutions, or at least they're a lot more available than they used to be. So that's the second element. And the third one is, well, the amount of data available. We all say companies sit on this amount of data, and it's like the new oil, right? So all these companies are sitting on it and trying to get value from it. The truth is actually not so many companies really get that value from this data. According to a study from Iron Mountain, 88% of companies obtain very little or no value from their data. That is what I was talking about earlier, is these models, data science models that have been developed never come to production, or they never actually have an impact on business. So that is a true number, and you have basically hundreds of the largest companies that you know that are sitting on a pot of gold, and maybe you actually work for some of them. And then the companies who actually manage, so the lucky 12% that actually manage to leverage the data, experience tremendous impact, like increasing the EBITDA and return on equity. That again is from studies from BCG and IIA. I'll try not to fall behind me. So what does that mean to have enterprise AI as an asset? That means that you'll be able to augment 100% of your business processes. And I'm not talking only about automation of processes, but also augmenting them. If you have teams of people who are reviewing credit applications at a bank, you can always automate these processes to make them faster, but also you can augment the impact and the accuracy of these processes. So again, 100% of them, from marketing, finance, maintenance, to all of these areas. Then all of this is meant to benefit 100% of the teams. And we'll see later how we approach this. And so the result is thousands of activities transformed. It's tens of thousands of people involved in data efforts. So we hear a lot of AI replacing people's jobs. What we believe in is actually putting AI in people's hands to improve all the processes and the impact they can have on the day-to-day job. And then finally, millions of models and data projects. So data projects can be predicting churn, predicting fraud, or simple ETL pipeline, transforming data, visualizing it. Well, simple, you know what I mean. So what's the actual asset? Question would be, can it be technology? So I was talking about this computing framework or storage framework with Hadoop, Spark, which has been getting some big, considerable traction over time, but then you can see that they've been stagnating, if not decreasing. It's actually the same for Spark, Kubernetes, and TensorFlow. And actually, the funny thing is, Dataiku leverages all of these technologies because they are what are right now the best available to do AI. But the takeaway here is that you cannot rely on them forever to make AI a success in your organization. Then second aspect, could it be data? The answer is also no, because data becomes very fast, very quickly obsolete. Imagine that 90% of the data that we have today was generated in the past 2 years. So can it be models? Well, the thing is, models relying on data and technology, the answer would be no, or at least not just models as we know them right now, as they stay stuck in development environment. The idea here is that the most valuable asset is the capacity to deliver impactful models. So these models are going to go from, sandbox, from experimentation to actual data products that are going to every day bring value to the company. So what stands in the way and what prevents achieving going from models to impactful models? Again, from the survey from Ernst & Young, first aspect is lack of AI talent. We all know it. You probably read it somewhere. It's hard to find the right data scientists, the right people who have the business knowledge, also the statistical knowledge, the programming skills, So that's the first aspect. Then the second one, you're probably familiar with it here, is linked with security and regulatory risk. Then third point is inefficiency of infrastructure support, insufficient quantity of quality of data, and then employee trust. Because in most organizations right now, AI is in the hands of a few teams, and all the business teams who are supposed to benefit from their work, they don't really understand it, they don't really trust it. And so for that, employee trust is, you can see, quite high up in the list of things that prevent success in AI. And so what we can link, well, the link we can make between lack of AI talent and employee trust is what we call inclusivity. So what I was talking about earlier, collaboration is where you want analysts and data scientists to work together on the same platform to build projects together, but also to allow people who don't have necessarily data science skills to be able to build predictive models. So imagine you're an analyst and you have all this knowledge about the business, about the sector where you work in, and you would, you would be bringing so much impact to your company if you were able to build predictive models, but you're not able to because you don't know how to code or you don't necessarily understand the data, for example. And then the second aspect is what we call operationalization. So that's what I was talking about between deploying models from experimentation to actual being impactful to your organization. And actually, these two elements are the two ones I was talking about earlier, talking about collaboration and production being two core aspects of Dataiku as a product. So, as we say very often, the main challenge is in software. I think that's pretty much what everybody experiences right now in many organizations. So siloed data, siloed people, siloed processes. Actually, right now, at least with Dataiku, it's quite easy to integrate all data sources. So you'll be able to connect to SQL databases, to Hadoop, to NoSQL, to cloud, to on-premise databases. And when we come, we have the software solution for it. But then there's always the challenge of what do we do about the silo between people and between processes. So we have the technology, but then there's the human element that is quite a challenge. And so this is what we did actually at GE Aviation. So this is the case study I wanted to present to you today. What we actually achieved with GE Aviation, going from literally 0 to 100, maybe 1,000, maybe a million, I don't know how you want to scale it. Over 1,800 users who are now using what we call service analytics. So that would be, for example, someone in engineering being able to build his own AI model, which is what we call the service analytics. Then 130 published data sets in the last year, so since January 2018. There's also more than 2,000 data products created since March 2017. And that's 568 automated projects. So this is the outcome. Obviously, we wouldn't talk about it if it wasn't such a positive one. So what we have basically in the beginning was what they called the Digital League. So Digital League was a cross-functional team between IT, between finance, supply chain, and engineering to build data-driven products. So their objective was to help break down the silos between their teams, was to emphasize collaboration, and to drive infrastructure decisions. So imagine like the impact you could have if someone from finance and supply chain could work together on the same AI project. So what was the roadblock for them to go from this idea to the situation where they are today, which is very successful, was how to scale. The idea was that what if all the business owners in the organization could build their own models? So regarding security aspects, all of this, of course, was completely handled, and we have the tools to do that. But the idea here was indeed how any business owner could deliver their own data innovation. And so the team behind this was called Service Data. So to enable all of these business owners to build their own data products. So the first element obviously was education. How do you get finance, marketing, people who have no idea about AI to build their own products? So education went through sort of like 4 levels of training. First one being like a self-guided video-based training to understand the basics. Second one got more than 1,000 graduates, which was sort of like a more intensive week-long course that we delivered to them so that they could get started on AI. So literally going from an Excel user to a citizen data scientist. And level 3 was a longer program, which was going more in depth for the people who wished to do it and who wanted to go to a higher level. And then finally, the executive level, which was, so as the name says, only for executives to follow a one-day training so that they can understand, the ins and outs of the self-service data team, and obviously drive this in an efficient manner. Second aspect after training was the actual tools in place. So Dataiku was the central piece in this 1,800 users deployment. Aviation was used for data cataloging, so basically sort of like label and know where the data is and what it's for. Third and fourth element were to monitor, I would say the third, monitor the state of the project, and the fourth one to actually deliver a visualization to business teams. And then the data. So we had training, we had tools, and we had data. So data was the last main component of enabling to go from 1 to 100. So that is consumption data sets so that every output of every data product can be consumed by the business. Again, it's no use to nobody if a model stays in development. Second was base data sets, so to protect the input data from being compromised. Third one was to transform the data set, so to keep every intermediary data sets in every data product and to know where it is. And then sandbox data set so that users could just play around, experiment without putting the products at risk. And so what happened in the end is users were basically able to have access to data sets in the appropriate way when they had authorization to do it. Again, of course, security is very important. You can imagine that at GE it is even more so than many places. Then self-service data user can use any data set to create projects in a design environment. So again, I am a marketing analyst and I want to create a model, maybe churn prediction. Let me create my own project when I want to. Then, as I was saying, we provide development and production environments, and by just clicking a button, you would be able to deploy a project from development to production. Again, all of this in a very secure and robust way. And for this, you would have automatic checks that Dataiku provides, so you'll be able to automatically trigger and verify data checks so that you're sure that the projects are actually robust. And beyond like bringing new tools and so on, operationalization. So again, pushing projects from development to production. First element was an email would be sent to the member of the self-service data team, as well as the data product owner, so data engineering or IT. Then second, the system was automatically trying to rerun the scenarios so that they don't have to constantly manually re-trigger things. And this third element was if there is a fail in the automatic rerun, to send an email to notify the owner to fix the problem. So to conclude, the aspects or the areas at GE where Dataiku had tremendous impact using AI. First one was engineering, so where engineering team were using data from these tools to redesign parts of the planes they built. Second one was supply chain, so that they can streamline the processes and get better insights on their shop floors and so on. Third one was finance, which was using it to understand key metrics such as cost, cash, etc. And finally, the commercial group was actually leveraging data that was coming from sensors on the engines that are flying right now to provide insights and to improve what's currently being done. Sorry. So the closing tips, if we ever get to work together, and we actually work together on providing self-service analytics to your organization, is that self-service is not a one-time project. It's not just sign it, install it on your infrastructure. It's also a long process, of course, of training. But in the end, you get, from 50 data scientists, you get another 1,000 or 2,000 if you have them, because you just train them for a week and you accompany them, of course, and you put in place the framework to make it work. And the central platform is going to ensure a virtuous reuse and accelerated value creation. So that's very important. So all of the projects are on Dataiku. They are there. That's where they're managed. That's where you're going to be able to reuse them, reaccess them, rerun them. So no loss at this point. Third one is like tools do not replace training, and we definitely delivered a lot of training there. And fourth aspect was to enabling users to failure with proper error documentation. So all of this again is like building a platform, building a central knowledge base for everybody to work correctly. So that's it. Hope that was useful. Thank you very much.